And the fire chief.
Yeah. Public safety. Keep it down. Oh, I want this back. Good evening and welcome to the City of Roswell Mayor and City Council meeting of Monday, September 22nd, 2025. I'm Mayor Kurt Wilson. I'd like to introduce my colleagues and council members present. Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember Christine Hall, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Lee Hills, Councilmember David Johnson, Councilmember William Morthland, and Councilmember Alan Sells. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to our Chief Administrative Officer and City Administrator, Mr. Randy Knighton, to explain how the meeting is run. Mr. Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson, and good evening, everyone. In accordance with Section Chapter 3.70 of the City Code, the City Council shall hold regular public meetings, and the purpose of City Council meetings are for the public to participate and speak on agenda items which constitute formal decisions by the elected body. These items are listed on the published agenda, which can be accessed via the city website prior to the meeting. This is a public meeting, and some items do require a formal public hearing. An important component of city council meetings are to hear directly from residents on items listed on the published agenda. Residents are at the top of the organizational chart for the city of Roswell. Therefore, public comments are essential for mayor and council to consider as they contemplate each decision. If you wish to speak on an item, please complete a comment card and hand it to our communications staff member, Brittany Mann. There's Brittany. And so if you need a comment card and would like to speak on an agenda item, please see her. And we will ensure that that is provided to our city clerk. Speakers will be called by the city clerk for each agenda item in the order in which they are received. We ask that everyone observe the principles of mutual respect and display the appropriate demeanor during the course of the meeting this evening, which is reflective of this great community. With respect to the proceedings, we ask that attention is given to the person speaking, and if it is necessary to have an independent conversation, we ask that you exit the rear doors to the vestibule area. We also ask that you silence any electronic devices at this time. The mayor is the presiding officer and will ensure an orderly exchange of comments and questions leading to decisions by the elected body. We encourage everyone in attendance in the viewing audience to visit the city website for departmental information, news events, and other city meetings. We also encourage you to participate in the various activities offered here in the city of Roswell, and that you would visit roswell365.com for a calendar of events. There are a number of events upcoming in the city of Roswell which promote, community physical activity and leisure as we all make Roswell the #1 city in America. Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. And as always, some special people I'd like to introduce tonight as we begin the meeting. I'd like to recognize, we're very fortunate to have Troop 1486, North River Baptist Church Scouts here. Y'all stand. Thank you very much for being with us. We're also very pleased to have from Governor Kemp's office, Mr. Ian Caraway. Ian, thank you for being with us. And we're also delighted to have from the Fulton County Development Authority, Ms. Brandis Parkman. Brandis, thank you for being with us. And now for the most important part of the meeting, I have the great pleasure of asking Nelson Zivick, President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to the front for the invocation of moment of silence. Nelson?
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come to Thee with grateful hearts for the many blessings Thou hast bestowed upon us and our families. We thank Thee for the blessings of gathering as a community in peace and purpose. And we humbly offer this prayer with a heart full of hope and ask Thee to bless this mayor and council meeting and all those who serve within it day after day. We ask Thee to bless this meeting with a spirit of unity and harmony. May those who participate be guided by mutual respect, shared vision, and a desire to build a community where every voice is valued, every life uplifted, and where individuals are always treated with compassion and respect. Help us to see one another as brothers and sisters, children of God. We pray for the leaders of our nation and our state of Georgia, and we bless the leaders also of the city of Roswell, where we reside, with wisdom and humility. Bless the citizens and neighbors of our amazing city with peace and safety in their homes and kindness in their hearts. Strengthen families and the children and youth with hope and purpose. We pray that Thy Spirit will be present always as we make our best efforts to serve and strengthen this community. May we be unified in purpose and generous in heart. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nelson Zivic, President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for your prayer. Thank you for being with us. At this time, I have the great privilege of asking United States Army Specialist Micah Clark to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think you've got some special company as well.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Specialist Clark. I'm going to ask you to stay right up there for the first item under the Mayor's report, which is a reading of the proclamation for the esteemed Veteran of Roswell Award. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Army Specialist Micah Clark, esteemed Veteran of Roswell. Whereas Micah Clark began his military service in 2008 at the age of 18, entering the United States Army and completing basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And whereas during his years of service with the Army, the Georgia National Guard, and later the Army Reserves, Specialist Micah Clark held critical roles as a driver, gunner, and mentor to Afghan officers, demonstrating courage, discipline, and leadership. Whereas Specialist Clark deployed for 11 months to Afghanistan, where he and his unit faced multiple ambushes and firefights while carrying out their mission to build trust with local communities and to train Afghan military forces, an effort that reflected both bravery and a commitment to lasting peace. And whereas his military service was marked by distinction, earning him numerous honors, including the Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Campaign Star, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the NATO Medal, the Armed Forces Reserve Medal with M device, the Combat Infantryman Badge, and other commendations recognizing his sacrifice and excellence. Whereas after completing his service with the Georgia National Guard in 2011 and fulfilling his 8-year contract with the Army Reserves in 2016, Micah Clark pursued higher education, earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Auburn University and obtaining his Georgia real estate license. Whereas Micah Clark has continued his life of service as the CEO and founder of Clark Brothers Roofing and Construction, a Roswell-based business that not only provides quality residential and commercial renovations, but also gives back to the community by sponsoring numerous nonprofits, schools, and local sports teams. Whereas Micah Clark's experiences in combat, including the loss of a close friend, deepened his appreciation for the cost of freedom, and inspired his drive to build a meaningful future for his family, employees, and community. The value of sacrifice, honor, and integrity instilled during his service continued to guide his work and leadership in Roswell today. And whereas the city of Roswell and its citizens are proud to recognize Micah Clark's devotion to country, his distinguished military service, and his ongoing contributions to our community through leadership, philanthropy, and entrepreneurship. Now, therefore, I, Kurt M. Wilson, Mayor of the City of Roswell, Georgia, do hereby name Army Specialist Micah Clark, an esteemed veteran of Roswell, and call upon all our citizens to recognize his outstanding service to our country and to our community, and that there is no higher calling than those who serve the United States Armed Forces. Congratulations, Micah. Yeah, you got to go.
Didn't know how to say anything, but yeah. Moved from Beaufort, Georgia about 4 years ago. Started doing a lot of work in Roswell, and my family, my wife and I, and kids, we just fell in love with it, and we were like, we have to move down here. So Roswell's been incredible to us. Truly feels like family, and we have no plans on leaving, so excited to be here and get to know you guys.
About swearing in? Yeah, that's what I thought. Reliving some moments. Yeah.
Is that the first time a 2-year-old's maybe had it in this place?
Well, we have some very, very special guests with us tonight. So next on the mayor's report is the reading of a proclamation for Roswell's 75th annual Francis McGahee Youth Day celebration. Roswell Youth Advisory Council has gathered here tonight to announce the 75th annual Francis McGahee Youth Day celebration. Roswell Youth Council, in partnership with the High School Interact Clubs, sponsored by Roswell Rotary Club, offers a platform for young people to provide advice, coordinate efforts, and engage with the city of Roswell on a higher level. This council is involved in initiatives such as representing youth at Roswell's Youth Day celebration in October, assessing assisting with city initiatives, and promoting civic engagement within Roswell. This year's council's participants join us from the following schools: Blessed Trinity, Centennial High School, Fellowship School, Roswell High School, and the Cottage School. As part of the tradition of Youth Day celebration, we would like to invite the 2025-2026 Roswell Youth Council to represent the mayor and council as we pronounce October 4th, 2025 as Youth Day in Roswell, Georgia. At this time, I would like to invite this year's Roswell Youth Council, consisting of 17 youth leaders, to stand and join myself and the council up front, and I'll read each one of your names. Taylor Patrick, representing Mayor Kurt Wilson. Addison Nokowski, representing Councilmember Will Mortland. Juliet Hernandez, representing Councilmember Sarah Beeson. Ashley Boemhauer, representing Councilmember Christine Hall. Hannah Chaco, representing Mayor Pro Tem Councilmember Lee Hills. Emily Frizzell, representing Councilmember David Johnson. Ava Hubner, representing Councilmember Alan Sells. Caden Ching, representing Police Chief James Conroy. Annie Etheridge, representing Fire Chief Pavel Troche. Kate Martinez, representing City Administrator Randy Knighton. And the additional members of the Youth Council who are not with us this evening: Brady Berry, Hannah Chaco, Joy C. Jordan, Caitlin Hobby, Yami Hurtado, Mali Richards, Jennifer Sanchez, Mary Catherine Tucker. Roswell Youth Council members, please take your place as our youth representatives for Roswell Youth Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It is an honor to represent this great city that we all call home for this year's Youth Day on October 4th. At this time, I would like to ask Annie to announce this year's Youth Day theme.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Taylor. This year's Youth Day theme is Growing Together. This theme embraces Roswell's forward-thinking, progressive nature, a big city feel in a small town setting. I would like to ask Ava to explain the theme for this year's event.
Thank you, Annie. The final theme was created based on the ideas gathered and shared by the members of the 2024-2025 Council last spring. These ideas, drafts, and creative thoughts were discussed and voted upon by the entire Council. The selected theme, Growing Together, embraces Roswell's bright future as part of the whole Metro Atlanta region. Roswell is growing together with its residents, its regional peers, and its future generations.
Do I have a motion to accept this theme for 2025 Youth Day celebration?
I motion to approve this theme for this year's Youth Day celebration.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Third?
I fourth.
I six.
I would like to say that passes unanimously. At this time, I would like to officially read the 75th Annual Francis McGahee Youth Day Celebration Proclamation. Whereas the youth of Roswell are an important part of the community, and whereas the youth of Roswell represents the future of our great city, and whereas the city of Roswell for the past 75 years has celebrated this youth with a city-wide celebration, and whereas the theme for the 75th Annual Youth Day celebration is Growing Together, and whereas festivities for Saturday, October 4th, 2025 will include the annual Francis McGahee Youth Day Parade, Fall Farm Days at Smith Plantation, Touch a Truck at Roswell City Hall, and Art Block highlighting both National Arts and Humanities Month and National Hispanic Heritage Month at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center. Therefore, we, the Youth Council of City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 4th, 2025 as Youth Day in the City of Roswell, and I call upon all of our citizens, young and old, to help us celebrate and promote this most honored day in our community.
All right, you guys stay there. Counselor, you guys agree? We're heading out. Yep.
Okay, Councilmember Hernandez has got this, so we're to pass a millage rate. You've got
Yeah, you guys got a village.
I think they want to pass some things about school, like maybe extra days off.
Okay.
I don't know, you're the mayor.
You get the time.
Christine's trying to incite a riot.
Yes, yes.
You want to go ahead and grab a picture?
Let's get a picture of the up here and then down below, right? Yes.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, do you want one picture up front, in front?
I think that's what we usually do, don't we?
Yep, you want one picture up front? All right, sounds good.
So everybody down in front, and we'll take another picture. You know, prior youth councils have motioned for extra days off and approved it. Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, and then you'll do another row in front, so 40 squatted, yep. You guys do. Do you want the council in the back? Oh, you want us out? Okay, do that. There.
Taylor, you're fine. Addison and Malia come.
Oh, you're good. We're a whole half of 5 here. Yeah, you're good. You stand lounge right. You're good. It's like I'm giving us I don't think counts on to stay for the whole meeting.
I know.
Let them go.
Thank you, Roswell Youth Council. Great job, and we look forward to seeing you in 12 days? Yes, 12 days, a week from Saturday. Youth Day Parade. Get ready to roll. Have lots of candy. Looking forward to it. All right, last on the mayor's report is the Roswell Results Update presented by Mayor Pro Tem Lee Hills. Lee?
Yes, sir. Thank you. RoswellResults.com is really about telling the story of how we're turning bold goals into real results for our community. It's built around 6 pillars: keeping Roswell safe, delivering excellent services, driving economic development, investing in infrastructure, being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and making Roswell a top place to work. Since January of 2022, these priorities have guided the work of this mayor and council and our city team, and together we've accomplished a great deal. RoswellResults.com, which is a website, www.roswellresults.com, is a place where our residents can see that progress, follow key projects, and track how we're building a stronger, safer, and more connected city. It's more than a website. It's about accountability, impact, and the pride we all share in Roswell's success. I encourage everyone to explore it. And just recently, there have been some exciting milestones worth highlighting. PBS Aerospace cut the ribbon on their new North American headquarters, manufacturing, and R&D center. This is a tremendous win for Roswell, bringing future-ready jobs in aerospace, healthcare, AI, and human performance technology. This Thursday, we'll break ground on the Hardscrabble Road multi-use trail, a bond project that will connect King Road to Highway 92. Just a couple of weeks ago, we approved the Hill Street Overlay District for a new mixed-use development that will soon be under construction right across the street from here. And this past week, the rest of the police department staff, with the exception of E911 operators, is moving into the new bond-funded public safety headquarters on Holcomb Bridge Road. The final phase of this project will be wrapping up by the end of the year, making way for the fire department to move in, making it a true hub for public safety in Roswell. These are the kinds of results we want our community to see and be proud of. For updates on these and many more accomplishments, I invite everyone to visit www.roswellresults.com. Mayor?
Thank you, Lee. All right, well, that concludes the mayor's report for this evening. Next is the consent agenda. City Clerk Nancy Long, are there any Roswell residents who would like to speak on the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no comments for this item.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Council, do you have any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion made by Councilmember Sarah Beeson, seconded by Councilmember Christine Hall. All those in favor of the consent agenda, all three items as presented, please do so by raising your hands. Let the record show that the vote is 6-0 and unanimous, and the consent agenda passes. Thank you very much. Next, we move to the regular agenda. The first item will be read by City Clerk Nancy Long. Nancy, would you please read the first item?
Yes, Mayor. This is approval of an ordinance to adopt a millage rate of 4.949 for tax year 2025. This will be the second reading, presented by Bill Godshaw, Chief Financial Officer.
Thanks so much, Nancy. I'm going to ask City Attorney Joseph Cusack to read the ordinance, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance to adopt a millage rate. Now, therefore, the mayor and council of the city of Roswell wish to establish a millage rate of 4.949. The millage rate has a component of 4.049 mills for the general fund, operating and capital improvement budget, and a component of 0.9 mills for servicing bonded indebtedness. And if approved, this is the second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Cusack. Welcome, Mr. Godshell, CFO. Thank you for being with us again, sir.
Pleasure. Thank you. So this is the second reading of the millage. The property tax millage will not increase. The rates will not increase in 2025. We will continue to maintain lowest maintenance and operation rate in 17 years. These funds will fund city operations related to parks and public safety, recreation and park, as well as transportation. The millage is comprised of two components, maintenance and operations being the first, which funds all the basic city services, including those I mentioned on a previous slide. And then the debt service portion funds the repayment of the voter-approved bonded debt from the questions that were voted upon in 2022 on down in 23. So a millage rate is your property tax rate. 1 mill is equal to $1 for every $1,000 of your property's assessed value. It's a little mathy. The assessed value of your property is 40% of the fair value as determined by the Fulton County appraiser, and that's the basis to determine your tax. So if we look at an example of City of Roswell's 4.949 millage rate, a Roswell homeowner who has a fair market value of $550,000, That assessed value will be $220,000, and assuming no exemptions, would pay approximately $1,089 in property tax to the city. If we were at about $198 of that goes for the bond program. We had the first reading, I guess about 2 weeks ago on September 6th. Then we had a state mandated special called meeting at 6 p.m. On September 15th, and tonight is a second and final reading adopted here tonight. Just a real quick overcap of the city's gross digest value. The total value for tax year 2024 was $9.099 billion with a B. Tax year 25 is $9.367 billion. That difference is an increase of approximately 2.9%, which is actually less than the 3% floating homestead exemption rate. So there's approximately $268 million increase in the digest value, of which we've determined $8 million is related to inflation. The balance to transactions in existing home. Floating homestead exemption, as you know, helps to offset the inflationary increases on homestead residential property by increasing as the property's value rises. So the taxable value grows more slowly than the market value when that market value goes over 3%. We do have a number of exemptions available for Roswell citizens, including the floating homestead exemption, which we discussed, as well as senior homestead exemptions. We have 2 of those, one income tested, and then we have a disabled veterans exemption that follows the VA mandated program. This is a history of the millage in the city of Roswell going back to 2008. You will notice blue is the maintenance operations component, or what we call city operations on here. The rate has been steadily coming down from 21, 22 to 23, and we've held it steady since 23. So we are operating at the lowest tax rate history that we have on the slide here. When we compare our tax rates for operations to our sister cities, Johns Creek comes in lower than us, but we are lower than Milton, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, and Mountain Park. More importantly, when you expand the area of comparison, we are still the second lowest tax rate, village rate for the city operations, extending throughout basically the Atlanta region area. It's our presentation, and I'm glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Godshall. Appreciate it very much. City Clerk Nancy Long, are there any Roswell residents who would like to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have 4 speakers. The first is George Crumley.
Welcome, George. How you doing, sir?
A quick question. So I know you've talked about the rate, okay, but you really haven't talked about the dollars on the tax rate. So if we keep the tax rate what it is, last year the city of $1.6 million. That number.
Bill, well, you could probably confirm that better than I can.
I'm reading it right from the paper that you signed. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So last year it was 1.6 million, right? This is the additional, not the total taxes we recover. This is just the additional over 2020. Correct?
This is the calculation we have to follow.
So, but this is a good basis number. Discussion.
It's not unreasonable.
Okay, all right, for the discussion, all right. So this year, we're keeping the same tax rate. So
Yes,
now the city will get additional $2.7 million. So my question is this really needed for the budget? We talked about being good stewards of our money. So here residents were giving an additional $2.7 million. Is that really necessary to balance the budget, to keep the budget the way it is, to operate as a city?
Thank you, George. Thank you for the comment. Yes, sir, Bill?
I'd just like to add a point of clarification. The advertisement that we run in the newspaper is based on a state mandated approach and formula. We in our finance shop have actually calculated the net increase. It's not 2.7, it's 2.1. It is an increase, but it's 2.1 million. So I just wanted to clarify that number and just explain the difference of what we have to publish in our advertisement versus what we'll actually include when it comes time for budgeting.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, sir. Nancy?
Yes, the next speaker is William Powell.
Hold on 1 second, Nancy, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
At the 4.658%, then it'll back down to, paper says 1.6, so what did it go back down?
I can't speak to that number.
Okay.
I would, but I can.
Okay.
That we have now. Part of it is because we get interim.
Okay.
A little slower than we want.
Okay, so if we just we've reduced the millage rate to 4.658, okay, then we'll be more in line with what we did last year as far as what the additional revenue that the city residents will be given to the.
Yes, if George, you probably know, we did a rollback rate 2 of the previous years, 22 and 23. We did not
Correct.
do a rollback.
I'm looking at it right here. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
But I'm not addressing the actual millage rate. I'm actually addressing the money that was generated based on the housing prices in the city.
That's exactly right. Yes. You're asking, is there more revenue coming in if you keep the rollback, if you keep the property tax rate the same? The answer to the question is yes, sir.
So the question is, if you get the additional revenue from the tax, the rate being the same.
Yes, sir.
What does this do for the budget?
I think the
question, does it keep us at a even budget? Does it bring us higher in our budget? More money to spend for the city? That's all.
Yes,
That's
sir.
my question.
We'll be doing a budget workshop, I think, a week from Thursday, which everybody's invited to. And then you'll see a proposed budget, I think.
October 1st, which is next Wednesday.
Yeah.
The workshop, yes.
Workshop's next week from Thursday, and then you'll see a proposed budget to you, the residents, after that.
Randy, can we get more details? Will that be in 220?
The budget workshop will be on October 1st, which is a Wednesday, October 1st, and that will be at East Roswell Park. And
So it's all day long, too.
yes, it's essentially all day long. Yes, that's correct.
So we'll be doing a budget workshop where the city will be doing a workshop going through its budget that it hasn't quite proposed, that you'll get to see everything and say, hey, here's the budget that I think will be coming before that's actually formally proposed. Workshop comes first. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, Nancy, yes, ma'am.
Yes, the next speaker is William Powell.
Welcome, William.
I'm William Powell. I had some follow-up questions, actually, about, I didn't hear an answer to the main question, which is, we understand about the rate staying the same, but effective tax increase, all homeowners. I read that it was an average of $69, depending on value or assessed value. I just also heard that the budget has not been solidified, so I'm wondering, first of all, are we comfortable with a tax increase in an election year? Because I think that's not, that's the optics of that are really bad. And then, but secondly, to follow on, have we set a budget and are now asking for a tax increase in order to fund that budget? Or are we going to develop a budget based on the amount of available funds? And so that we have unlimited, basically, latitude in terms of using the money at hand rather than saving money, as you've stated that is a goal for this mayor and council a number of times publicly. So could I get an answer to that question about we do understand that this is a tax increase, not just a millage rate, leveling off?
So, and Bill will give the correct jargon. So if I say anything that's not absolutely 100% correct. So we have to establish a millage rate before we establish the budget, because the millage rate is required by law. So we have to say what the millage rate is going to be. The answer to your question directly is if you keep the property tax rate at the same level, it is a tax increase. Yes. And there will be, it's worth about, I think, what we think it's going to, where we estimate the value is.
0.1 million is what I heard earlier.
So we estimate that the tax attributable to the millage will be $29.2 million. And if I could add a point of clarification, with the change in fiscal year end, these tax revenues will fund 2025. So they're funding the current budget we're operating under now. When it comes time to, because we're on a fiscal year end, a calendar year end now, our next fiscal year end starts on January 1st. So the budget that is going to be discussed at the workshop and the presentations would be for 2026, beginning on 1/1 and ending on 12/31. This is for the collection of property tax revenues that were budgeted for 2025. But now, because of the timing, it's a fourth quarter event instead of a second or third quarter event, which it was on the old fiscal year. So that's an important distinction, is that these monies have already been budgeted and covered by this property tax millage. Does that help?
Mayor.
Alan.
But this, the timing of this is set by Fulton County. This is a part of their collections process. We have to submit our millage rate. That's why we're having this conversation right now.
Yes, sir. We will always collect at this time of the, we will always set at this time of year. We'll always collect at the fourth calendar quarter, which now lines up to the end of our fiscal year.
Christine, did you have something? Did that answer your first question, William?
I think what I'm hearing is that the budget, that the number that is being asked, tax increase, fund already approved budget item.
Well, the budget for 26 has not been done yet. So the millage rate is a separate item. It's establishing what we believe for the residential property tax, what we believe the values for will be coming in. And to your point, if you keep the number the same, the property tax rate the same, based upon the assessed value, it is a true statement to say there is more revenue, or call it tax increase, that's coming in to the city. That's what our basis is. 2 years, we actually rolled it back. If you look historically, that's pretty unprecedented. Last year, we kept it the same, which meant there was over $1 million more revenue coming to the city on the property tax. This year, same thing. It's worth noting, I think, William, to your question, is that obviously cost pressures increases. We continue to raise pay, which we'll continue to do. This council and mayor is committed to raising pay, inflationary value. I would say if you look at most cities actually don't even keep the property tax rate the same. This city has actually rolled it back twice, and this 2 years in a row, we're keeping it the same. But I will not deny to you that does mean more revenue on the residential side. I will tell you that ultimately, it is our goal to actually get rid of residential property tax for all residents in the city of Roswell. But it's going to that takes us a lot of, we got a ways to go to get that done on our economic strategy. But I don't want to be clever. Yes, more revenue means a tax increase, even though you're keeping the rate the same. That's a true statement.
Right. And I appreciate that. And that's very a transparent answer, and I think we can all coming with that. Yes, my question is I understand the budget pressures, but those cities continues to grow. We continue to receive increases in offset with the sales tax. So I can't imagine that some of these.
Can I address this sales tax?
Let's just finish my comment. I can't imagine that a lot of the budget requirements in terms of inflationary pressure, et cetera, are not being answered by regular growth of the city.
That's
tax base thereof.
Well, multiple sources of revenue, but let's talk about the sales tax just for a second, because I'm glad you brought that up. So in the first 6 months that I was in office, came into it, we had the second 6 months, Mr. Knight and I had the great privilege of being with the 14 other cities in North Fulton to do the LOST, local option sales tax negotiations, would happen every 10 years. And thanks to the partnership between really the 5 North Fulton cities, Mountain Park, Alpharetta, Milton, Johns Creek, and Roswell, we negotiated a really out of a disastrous LOST situation where the county had us by.
I was present for some of those meetings, so
So-
I understand that, and that was good work.
And the reason I mention that is we still have a descending value. So if you look at those tables on the lost tables, all of the cities in Fulton County lost money to Fulton County. Fulton County got a bigger share. There's a sliding scale. So the reason I say that is if you actually look at Bill's tables for 2025 and 2026, there is less money projected than historical numbers on the local option sales tax.
I suppose it could have been worse, but.
Could have been a lot worse.
Okay. Very good. I just want to understand, because this is, we're the ones that have to write the checks or pay the money. And the timing thing, I see that, but Fulton County collects taxes in October. So should we consider some of those things in order to get ourselves square when it comes to the budget and the revenue process or millage rate setting process? Because we're trying to fund last year's programs with money that's going to be paid in December, as I understand it.
Bill, I'll let you address that a little bit, but the residential sales tax, one of the reasons we moved the fiscal year from July to January, there were a bunch of reasons, but one was funding, so there'd be a better equilibrium of funding. Because to your point, you'd have a giant surge at the end of the year on revenue on the residential property tax. Just FYI, the residential property tax, and Bill, you can correct me on that, is about, I'll use my terminology, a $27 million bogey. That's why Alan and the economic team are committed that we're going to find revenue sources, part of this is through our economic development, that we believe we ultimately can get rid of the residential property tax. So I'm like you. I do not like the residential property tax. I don't think it's a good tax. I think it's a disproportionate tax. It's a historic tax. Nobody, like if you say, what's millage? Nobody knows what millage is. It's property tax, right? It's the property tax rate. It's antiquated and it needs to be replaced. We're working on that, and I completely, and in the short term, that's why you don't see us raising the rates. If you see other cities will raise the rates. We don't raise the rates. But I will not deny to you, if you keep the rate the same based upon the values of assessments, there is more revenue, which does mean it's a tax increase. And you can call it by any other name you want to, but that's what it is. It's a small one, but it's still a tax increase. And I don't want to play games in there and tell you anything differently. Bill?
So from a financing revenue, you explained the sales tax dilemma perfectly. Our sliding percentage of the total Fulton County take goes down each year for the next 3 years. So that's a challenge or a pressure that we need to address. Also, we maintain sufficient reserves throughout the year to handle the cash flow pressures that come with collecting taxes, these particular taxes in the fourth quarter. We have 3 main sources of taxes. We have the business taxes on occupation. We have the sales tax, which comes in throughout the occupation tax tends to come in the first 3 months of the fiscal year. Sales tax comes in throughout the year, including ad valorem on car sales, and then property taxes come in the fourth quarter. So shifting to this mechanism, our taxes all line up to, by mechanism, I mean fiscal year. Our taxes all line up in the same fiscal year. So we're not looking at different tax collections in different fiscal years and trying to balance out how we manage our flow of funds. This allows us to better manage our flow of funds, better matches up with marketplace expectations on how to deal with year-end taxes, as well as forecast for the first quarter taxes. I don't know if that helped.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, Ellen.
It's William, right? Will? Yes. So this, I'm new to property tax as well, so some of this stuff I didn't know either, but just a couple things that you said I want to make sure are clear. That first, Fulton County collects all of the taxes, including ours. So we don't collect our own taxes for property taxes. That's part of your Fulton County tax bill. So I know, but it's billed at the same time as all the Fulton counties, right? Is that right?
Just, Alan, sorry, forgive me, just property tax, just residential property tax? But, and I think Alan's point is, the large bill that you get, the gigantic bill you get is Fulton County. I think most everybody knows that. I will tell you often, sometimes people get Fulton and Roswell confused. The giant bill on the property tax side is Fulton. The giant bill is the school. Which is a good part of it, but it's Fulton County taxes. But we do, the residential property tax does go to the city of Roswell.
So the other advantage that Fulton has, Mr. Sells, they know before we do when they finalize the tax rolls.
Which is the assessment. So when you're talking about
The
changing
assessment,
the assessment.
so they get their bills out before we do.
Right.
Because then they send us the assessment, and I guess we get to the point now where we want to make sure the assessments they've sent us are the right file. So we do some error checks and we do some accuracy checks on those files. We process our bills. We generally need to process them before October 31st so that we can get them in, collected, and on the fiscal record before 12/31.
But, William, I think I want to know where Alan's going. There is not a shortage of funds in the city, anywhere in the balance sheet.
All right.
No, sir, not at all.
Nowhere, no how, no way. And so if anybody suggests that, this is definitely not about approving cash flow. This is about setting the millage rate to say what we expect, we think we're going to come in at a budget.
The only factor that we address is the millage rate. The assessment is all done by Fulton County tax assessor. So it's not like we influence that in any way.
So there's no, like, we're not, this millage rate has nothing to do saying, hey, we're short on cash, we need more money. It is making a best educated guess today on what we think the revenue streams are going to be equal to what we think the budget is. But quite frankly, the budget hasn't been done. Like literally a week from Wednesday, this senior team and council will present to you a workshop on the budget, working on the budget. It's not even a proposed budget, it's a workshop. Right. And then after that, then there'll be a proposed budget that you'll see come from me. That'll be the workings of the senior staff and council. But this is, to your point, because it's not a perfect process because of how it's done. Obviously, we would say we'd like to establish the millage rate after we did a budget. We don't have that luxury. We have to establish the millage rate first. It's a choice based upon when you have your budget. So if we did a budget July 1st, we would have the millage rate first. Since we moved the budget to January 1st, then it does make that the choice. It is a choice that we've made. Obviously, the millage comes before the budget does. But the advantages to doing a calendar year, fiscal year budget are significant in terms of how it saves the city money. And that's why we made that decision.
Okay, then, please consider and respect the fact that this is and rather than try to backfit the budget to go with I'd love to see a surplus so we could say we could do this again next year. Roll it back like we did 2 years ago. So just requesting that you consider that in terms of don't make the budget fit the revenues. Let's make the revenues fit the budget.
It's kind of like, just like you do at home or in your business, right? You start at zero, you build it up, then you come back, right? And you start figuring out, all right, how much do I have to work with? It's that simple in many ways.
If I'm against it, I guess you figured that out.
Yes, sir.
But just asking that you consider that.
William, thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. Yes, sir, David.
Just to point out one thing about cost pressures as we were talking about. Mr. Gottschall, 1 mil is about $7 million, $8 million. That somewhere in that range?
7.4.
Okay. Just talk about road resurfacing by itself. We put the most money in Roswell's history of last year's budget, $4.2 million to resurface our roads. Previous mayor's councils put $500,000, $1 million. Our current average PCI, pavement condition index, is about 51 for all of our roads in Roswell. To get that up to 70, which is kind of the standard, it's going to take about $12 million a year. So if we, and we're not doing this tonight, but one millage rate would only just cover, like if we increase the millage rate 1 point, all that would cover is just road resurfacing. You know,
David,
like, there's so many infrastructure needs
Well,
you know, that are just.
I know
Yeah,
that's what
sorry.
the workshop should do. No, I'm interrupting you, I'm sorry, but it's just so many, for example, like when we came in, like I could adjust, forgive me, I'll say I for a second. I could adjust this budget down tremendously, but I wouldn't be able to attain a full-time fire department. The reason there was a part-time fire department in this city for 25 years when the city knew it is because it's a $5.8 million operational OpEx per year. In other words, it took $5.8 million that the city wasn't spending per year to create a full-time fire department. So we said, let's be responsible about that, and we phase it. We're phasing it in over 5 years. We're in year 3, next year will be year 4. $5.8 million per year OpEx budget to go from a part-time fire department to a full-time department, just that alone. When we came in, this police were historically paid, look at the record, low to middle of the entire North Fulton region. You know what we did? We immediately gave them a 20% tax wage hike and took them to the top tier. And we've created an operational platform that says that we will continue to do that with the police. Do you know the city of Roswell has 157 badges? You know the city of Roswell, check their record. Only city in the United States of America, 3 years running, 0 vacancies. It's not by accident. Now, that's an investment. That's an investment that you entrust me as a public servant to make with your tax dollars on how best to spend your money. And so I believe that's in the best interest of me as a resident and my fellow residents to invest in my police officers, in my firemen. I believe it's in the best interest of my fellow residents and myself is to continue to invest in paving. When you spend $500,000 to $1 million in paving, it shows up in results. That's why the budget's at 4. Honestly, we're trying to get to 8. David says 12. He's right to get to a full PCI rating. Lots and lots of things like that that you ask for as your fellow residents once you get informed to trust, to make decisions, to not be unwise. I could cut this budget, and I could take $1 million off it like that, and you would be mad at me because I wouldn't be providing the services. You said, well, there's lots of fat in government. I'm telling you guys, we were doing Doge before Doge was cool. Like this, we have been serious about finding new sources of revenue and cutting and attacking spending throughout the government, and we will continue to. You'll continue to see a very aggressive approach. This is not a fat local government. This is a government that's serious about being innovative, adaptive, and entrepreneurial with your money. We take your money seriously because we have a fiduciary responsibility to it. And that's why I'm not going to tell you anything disinterest like, yep, if we keep the millage rate the same, technically that's a tax increase. And I'm asking you for your money for another $1.5 million a year on the property tax side. And I'm also telling you that we are also committed to ultimately reducing and eliminating the residential property tax because we think it's a tax that ultimately needs to go away. But right now, it's one of the revenue streams that we have.
Well, I just want to point out that if we keep the current budget of $4.2 million for road resurfacing, the quality of roads in this city goes down. You're right. Instead of a PCI of 51, in 10 years, it'd be a PCI of 48. Next 10 years, it'd be a PCI of 44. And, you're going to, 40 years, we're all going to be driving on gravel roads. So, my point on being, it's like there are cost pressures to the city that, affect us and affect your quality of life. Driving on roads that have grass growing out of them is not safe or not good for our city. Potholes aren't safe for your cars, right? And we're going to put $4.2 million, the most ever for the city invested last year. If we get to 8, that'd be amazing. I'm not, it's kind of a hope and prayer in my book, but we'll get there, and that's an investment coming back into your community. And so I just want, people to know that, we kind of have to fix the last 30 years of lack of investment in our infrastructure. And that's what we're doing here.
Sorry. Nancy.
The next speaker is Daryl O'Hare.
Welcome, Daryl.
Council, I was here last time as your sole resident. I'm here again. So I think the question I asked last time was what would be the difference in the amount of money that we would collect, and now we have that figure at $2.1 million. It's a difference of $2.1 million from last year, what we collected, in addition, that we'll have as a result of keeping this millage. Because we're having a budget workshop afterwards, and because it's the second year that we're dealing with the crunch of having changed the budget into the fourth quarter, I can see where, for me, it's almost like it's coming up again, the anxiety of the budget building, not knowing what the budget is going to be projected, and we're voting on this prior to knowing what the budget items will be so that we can keep ourselves within a reasonable, sort of target for our expenditure. And so I know that for me, I'm seeing this as, because I remember my husband was asking me, I think, something like, well, what is the budget projected for next year? And I said, we don't have that. So it would be, I know this is as I understand it from what I heard, was that the sales tax rate will be reducing over time, at least the amount we'll be collecting. That goes on throughout the year. Business taxes are collected in the beginning of the year, and then property taxes are collected at the end of the year. So, I can't change the budget timing anymore or anything like that, but I can voice that I can sense that tension coming again like we had last year, and I would really like to see a really full proposed budget so that we know where the money's going. Cost pressures, we've been talking about that. You want to fully fund all the different projects. I want to fund a lot of things myself. My cost pressures at home are pretty significant. Inflation rate. I mean, at the grocery store, I'm spending way more money. My energy rates are, even if they freeze them this year, they're freezing them at the highest rates we've ever had them. So there's not any kind of break I'm seeing at the resident level because everybody is at a different level of income within our city. I think everybody is feeling the pinch. And so likewise, I think that the city mayor and council should also decide to do some creative budgeting as they have in the past and figure it out. I think $2 million you can figure out, and I don't think it's going to reduce these services. I think you'll be able to do it. I am not against taxes. Never been against taxes. I like giving my funds for the greater good of my community, including myself. That is not a philosophical thing that many people share with me. However, at the same time, I do not have, we're trust partners. We're the residents, and you lead, and we've elected you to lead us. But if the goal is to eliminate the property tax for residents, then in good faith, tonight, I'm going to say, prove it by rolling our millage rate back. Because we can't have a goal of actually having something like that, which I don't see where we get there, but if we really do, I think that you can come up with a rollback millage rate so that we don't have an additional tax increase based on our increasing property taxes because the values of our homes are increasing at a rate that I haven't seen before. So you will be collecting more taxes. You are going to tax the citizens. You can come up with a better solution for it. I believe you can. And I'm going to trust that you will. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Daryl. Yes, sir. Councilmember Sells.
We can come up with a better way. And we can do that by growing the economic base of Roswell. Our taxes are out of balance. Too much comes from the residents as it is. We do not collect enough business taxes, and all of you who live in Roswell know we have a lot of gray field, 45, 50-year-old economic centers that have outlived their useful life, their economic life. And we as a council are working very hard to address that with those owners. Just like your house, we can't walk into the owner of a commercial property and say, hey, we want you to change that. So we have to work with them and find creative ways to do that. I just want to highlight one transaction that we're working on that, and this takes time, Daryl. It takes time, and we've been working on these negotiations with some of these people for 2+ years. And one of them is taking the tax amount that the city gets from a particular piece of property from about $160,000, $170,000 a year to close to $10 million a year, because we're working to convince that owner to let us do something different with that property that will drive tax revenue. And that's how we'll do that, is by growing the economic base, the business base of Roswell. Our houses are on average 40+ years old in Roswell and not getting any younger. So we have to grow the economic base. And you're right, the appraised value of the houses goes along with whatever Fulton County appraises. That is a true statement. So what we'd like to do, like I said, we only have one lever, and that is the millage rate. Everything else is not in our hands. But we can be out of that business if we can grow our economic receipts through growing the economic engine of Roswell on the 14% of the land that is commercial. That's how we'll do it.
Thank you, Alan. Nancy.
Yes, the last speaker is Courtney Rozier.
Welcome, Courtney.
I just have some clarifying questions, so hopefully it won't take too much time. I appreciate everybody hanging in there. There was some conversation about with the collection of tax, with this being the 2025 tax. I got a little bit lost in regards to if the collections for the 2025 property tax, if it's funding part of the 2025 budget, or is the collection that's done in December funding the 2026 budget?
So I'm going to let the expert answer the question, but I'm going to give you how I understand it.
Okay.
Because it was a little, sorry, Bill, I got a little confused on that too. 2025 receipts are part of the 2025 budget year.
Okay.
But there is a significant cash balance already on hand.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Right. So the 2025, even though it's like coming in October, November, December, those technically fall within the 25 budget year. So they're not part of the 26. They're not, you're not, like the millage thing is a little, like it's a little kooky, because you have to say, hey, we got to say what our millage is. And since Fulton County has established it, we have to say, hey, we got to do that before we do our budget. It's my belief, Courtney, that having a calendar year, fiscal year budget makes a lot better sense. And we've demonstrated that on several different issues in terms of doing it on a July 1, right? So we used to do July 1. As you know, we changed it. We changed it since I was here. The reason we changed that is because financially we thought it made a significant difference. It was a way of us saving some money and getting a bigger bang for the buck. Perfect example is paving. On paving contracts, we establish about 30-35% more efficacy, more value on paving contracts on the way because we lay them out on a fiscal calendar year rather than on July 1 calendar year. But the short answer to your question is 25 receipts, 25 budget. Does that make sense? And is that, Bill, you agree with that? I see Lynn shaking her head yes.
Sorry.
If you see Lynn shaking her head yes, we're good to go.
That's what I thought too.
So I think you made a good point I missed on my first time up, is that the revenues were part of the 2025 budget. So we had to budget the taxable base, the assessed value, as well as try to determine what the millage needed to be. And we held that millage flat in the budget, as we're doing today here.
So me kind of address the elephant in the room. There's not a conversation, like, are we aware of what the additional revenue is based upon keeping the property tax rate in the millage the same? Yes, we're making a guesstimate. I think Daryl said 2.1. That's probably going to be right, Daryl, but it's not for sure. I'm just going to say that's probably going to be right, but I'm just saying that's not a precise number. But yes, factoring into the budget, you'll see it in the workshop. You'll see a whole bunch of expenditures for a whole bunch of the departments. and you'll see a whole bunch of different revenue sources. And one of those revenue sources will be residential property tax. And that $2 million will be factored into that, into the workshop, and then ultimately in the proposed budget. But it's just like a budget you do for yourself and your business at your home. You're putting together what your different expenses are, and you're putting your different revenue sources, and you put them together, and you keep putting those together until you get a balanced budget, or hopefully surplus. As kind of David said, though, the needs of the city, sorry, Courtney. So when we got in, Courtney, like one of the things we discovered was $450 million of distressed expense on capital assets. What does that mean? Well, it means over a 20-year time period with historically low leverage, that means low cost of money, the city of Roswell decided not to borrow money in historically low borrowing money climates. When everybody said, well, that's a good thing. Well, it wasn't. Because what happened was you had a lot of things that you and I paid for as residents, capital, assets that we put into place that we didn't have a plan to replace, and they continued to decline and they degraded. And so when we came in, there was a significant overhaul. That's why we basically asked for $180 million. We didn't ask for $450 million because we didn't think we could execute $450 million in a time period that would make sense. And we also honestly thought there's no way that the residents will accept a $450 million request. But it literally was that large. And it's kind of like to David's point. There are a lot of things that we are making up for. Another point, I'm committed to continuing to raise the pay of the people that work in the city of Roswell. We continue to recruit better and better talent, and the talent that we have here does a good job. And so if you look another thing over the historic piece of how Roswell paid people, not just police and fire, but it's regular employees, pretty static. There were many, many years where there were no pay increases. I think we have to do a better job. And I think just because, quote unquote, these are government employees, no, if you expect great results from people who work for you, you got to pay them. And so I'm committed to continue to improve pay for our employees that work here in the city. We expect higher levels of accountability and results, and we are going to increase pay as long as I'm here. Sorry.
Ms. Rozier, could you move closer to the mic? Yes, thank you so much.
That it would be preferable to have the budget needs and get the millage rate. So I guess in other words, that it would be preferable to already know what your budget needs are and set the millage rate after that, I think it was said. So, but I guess really just the clarification that I was wondering is this a date-driven vote first, or is it just not so much date-driven, but
on the millage rate?
But there's something in either state or county regs that say that you have to do the millage rate
On the
first.
millage rate, yes, ma'am. It's date-driven.
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 Okay.
On the millage rate.
Okay.
On the millage rate. And Joe and Bill, would you please speak to that? Because that's why the reasons in front of, to your point, to the whole point of this question, the millage rate, if we had our way, would be in coordinates with when we presented the budget. There's no, we're not that stupid. We would not be presenting the millage rate in front of you before the budget unless we had to do it. So the millage rate has to come first based upon the way the law reads. You want to address that, Joe?
So there's various timing, advertising timing that comes out and that we have to meet. Obviously, the millage rate, you have sort of build upon things, and that Fulton County is adopting what they send out their assessed values. Then we're sort of in a race against the clock. All right, we have to establish our millage rate based on those assessed values. Oh, and by the way, we also have to pass a budget at a certain point. So it's just these time crunches that sort of trickle down from state law, trickles down to Fulton, trickles down to us. So being the low man on the totem pole in a municipality puts us in that timing bind. And so it's set out of our hands in that it's set by state law, and that timing goes down to the county and down to us.
And then I appreciate the announcement about the work session. And so I just had a clarification. I heard that it was the October 1st, but did I also hear that it was going to be an all-day event? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So unfortunately, I'm like at my peak period, so I'm not able to take the time off. So how would I, if I'm not able to attend that meeting, how would I be informed before coming to the public meeting in order to make comment in regards to the budget?
Go ahead, Randy, you want to address that in terms of the standard process?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things. One is, of course, the workshop where elements of a draft budget will be presented, and obviously that is something that we anticipate will be for the balance of the day, starting early morning and going into the afternoon. The actual first presentation of the budget will be October 14th, which is a public meeting, and then we'll have two additional readings for consideration and ultimately adoption for the budget. So there will be several opportunities, not only through the budget workshop to be informed, but also then through the presentation and then two additional public hearings where there will be public comment and opportunity to receive additional information on the actual budget.
So last year, I think there was 3 meetings. So I think I'm hearing that there would be those, because I think those were like 3 formal meetings. That we'll have the October public meeting, and then 1 or 2 additional public
Two
meetings?
additional. Did I have that right?
So a total of 3 public meetings?
Great. That's correct, yes.
And then
in addition to the workshop.
Okay, okay. And then for the workshop on the 1st, will it be recorded so that someone, or would it be live streamed so that, because like I could potentially have it on
Lynn's shaking her head at me no, Courtney. She's saying, no, we're not going to record it. Right? This is in East Roswell, and we just did the whole thing with the, no, ma'am, it won't be recorded. I'm sorry.
So at that workshop meeting, so I'm assuming that like different departments would be presenting their budget needs and providing background or explanation?
Yes, ma'am.
So as a with that information, are there going to be
Would that be
minutes or
public
something, like
and,
a transcript perhaps?
I think sorry, Courtney. Yes, the presentation that's given at the workshop will be made publicly available, I believe. Is that correct? And that will be made publicly available that day or the next day. Is that fair? Yeah. So whatever you see presented in the workshop will be put on, where's my comms team? I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's going to be put on the website, right? And
So
there'll be
the
a special-
presentations would be available
Yes,
to
ma'am.
review before coming, so I can be informed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then you can obviously reach out to us and say, look, I don't understand this. What are you guys doing here? What are you thinking here? You know?
And then just one last item. I noticed that, like, for this presentation, it wasn't attached to the agenda. And in the past, and it's kind of been on and off when presentations have been attached to the agenda. In the past, it was fairly routine that presentations were attached. And so just kind of something that I've noticed, and just for consistency. they could be
Courtney, I have the
attached.
same question myself, because I'm looking down here in my book, and it doesn't match what I have when I look at the screen. So I don't have a good answer for you on
Okay.
that. I don't know I don't know. I don't know what this, because I was really funny, you said that earlier, and I was looking at the same thing. It's like, I've got probably the same thing you're looking at, and the presentation's different. And I have noticed that does seem to be more than I noticed it in the past, in the last, versus a year ago. Don't know why. We'll try to get you a good answer, because I don't know what that's about.
Or just, if they're just for consistency. I mean, it's helpful to me when I'm going back and looking at different things for the presentations to be attached.
There's some good stuff usually that backs up the presentation that you can say a year from now or 6 months from now, like, hey, you guys put this in the presentation. This is how you can.
Avoid having to go through an open record.
Agree. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great. Thank
It's
you
a
so
good question.
much.
I'll try to get you a real answer, because I don't know the answer to that question. Yes, ma'am. Nancy, do we have any other Roswell residents on this particular item?
No, Mayor, there are no other speakers for this item.
Thank you all very much for your thoughts. Council?
Just one quick question. Bill, I just want to make sure we put a fine point on this. Our audited year end 12/31/2025 for the 12 months then ended will include the spending that we've had since January 1st of 2025.
Yes, sir.
And the revenue that we're talking about this evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's all 2025. So we anticipated what the receipts would be. This being a part of the budget, it's not, certainly not all of the budget, but it's a part of the budget, and we anticipated what this would be, and we spent accordingly in 2025, and now we're collecting that revenue.
Correct, and part of the schedule of the financial statements will be a budget to actual reconciliation as reviewed by the auditors.
Bill, can you do
Thank
me,
you.
would you do me a favor? Because Courtney raises a great point, and we got to figure out why some of the presentation materials aren't in our book sometimes. I don't know what that's about, because there's some good stuff. For example, would you pull up just a couple of slides, which I think are really germane to the whole discussion, and worthy of me as a reminder as a resident? Yeah. So if you go back and say, look, in North Fulton County cities, Roswell has the second lowest M&O. Go back one more. And if you look over the last, it is the lowest, right, that it's been since 2008. And if you look at the last 4 budgets, which is really what this group's responsible for, you've had 2 rollbacks and you've had 2 stay the same. And I think Gerald said, hey, please do something courageous. I think it has been pretty courageous, because if you look historically and you go back through this chart, you can see there's a pretty, not only is there an increase, there's an increase in the property tax rate, and there's also, which is just an outright tax increase. And you can see the last 2 years, we actually rolled it back. And then this year and this year, well, last year we kept it the same, and this year again, it's being proposed that we keep it the same. And to William, your question, yes, that is, to be completely straight up about it, that is a tax increase. That's fair. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions from council? Thank you very much. Council, do I have a motion? Do I hear a motion on the item 1 as it's been, yes, sir, Councilmember Sells. Would you read the item, please, sir?
Mayor, I would like to put forward a motion to approve an ordinance to adopt the millage rate of 4.949 for the tax year 2025. This is the second reading.
Thank you, Councilmember Sells. Is there a second to Councilmember Sells' motion? Second. Seconded by Councilmember Christine Hall. Any other additional thoughts or questions for the motion for the motion made and seconded? If not, all those in favor, please do so by raising your hands. Thank you very much. Let the record show that the motion passes 6-0 unanimously. I thank you very much. And the approval of the orders to adopt a millage rate to 4.949 for tax year 2025 is approved. Thank you very much. City Clerk Nancy Long, would you read the second item on this regular agenda, please?
Yes, this is approval of a sidewalk cafe at 4345 Park Square Court. This will be presented by Jeannie Payton, Planning and Zoning Director.
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, Jeannie.
Council, I'm Jeannie Payton, Planning and Zoning Director. Have the approval of a sidewalk cafe at Cafe Le Bon, 2 cafes. They're requesting mayor and council approval of a sidewalk cafe, which is to be located in the right-of-way adjacent to their location at 4345 Park Square. The cafe is located on the north side of Park Square, on the northeast corner of the intersection of Park Square and Atlanta Street. They propose to have 2 tables with seating for 4 patrons in the sidewalk area located just outside and adjacent to the cafe. They will also have other cafe seating, but it is not part of the sidewalk cafe that's located in the right-of-way. Once approved, the applicant would need to renew their cafe license on an annual basis.
Jeannie, thank you so much. Let's see, I think before any questions, let's ask the applicant if they're present, if they'd like to speak. Is the applicant present? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Chris Nardone. I live at 1125 Land O'Lakes Drive in
Hey,
Roswell.
Chris. Welcome.
And Joelle is the actual applicant. So, yeah, this is, we think, pretty simple. Just tables, 4 chairs. Give the cafe and outdoor seating, and a little bit of presence on the park.
We're excited about your place. Thank you for doing that. It's a good spot. Thank you, Chris. I'll save comments or questions from council. Nancy, are there any Roswell residents that want to speak on this item?
No, there are no speakers for this item.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any thoughts, comments, or questions on the matter? Outstanding. Anybody who would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve Sidewalk Cafe at 43 and 45 Park Square Court. This is item 20251723.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor of approval of item number 2 as stated by Councilmember Beeson, please do so by raising your hands. Let the record show that the vote 6-0 and unanimous, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very much.
Nancy, would you read item number 3 on the regular agenda, please, ma'am?
Yes, this is approval of a resolution to adopt the annual update to the Community Work Program and Community Improvement Element covering the 5-year period from 2025 to 2030. This will also be presented by Jeannie Payton, Planning and Zoning Director.
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, Jeannie.
And this is our annual report for impact fee program. Impact fees are a one-time payment for growth-related infrastructure, and the Georgia Development Act governs the program. As part of the annual process, we have to present a yearly report. Mayor and Council has already approved our submission that went down to the Department of Community Affairs via ARC Atlanta Regional Commission on July 14th, 2025. That was approved with no comments from Atlanta Regional Commission on August 26th. So this is just for the adoption of that.
Thanks, Jeannie. Thank you so much. Nancy, are there any Roswell residents who'd like to speak on this item?
There are no speakers for this item.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Council, any thoughts, comments, or questions on the matter? Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion?
Make it. Go ahead.
Councilmember Sales?
Still on. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution to adopt the annual update to the Community Work Program and Community Improvement Element covering the 5-year period from 2025 to 2030.
Thank you, Councilmember Sales. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Pro Tem and Councilmember Lee Hills. All those understand item 3, please do so, and approval of item number 3 as stated by Councilmember Sales. Please do so by raising your hands. Thank you very much. The motion passes unanimously. Last on the agenda is the City Attorney's report. Assistant City Attorney Joe Cusack, would you please read the first item on the City Attorney's report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an approval of a resolution authorizing the Roswell Development Authority to enter into negotiations on a city-owned property located at Bowen Road and Highway 92.
Thank you, Joe. Nancy, are there any Roswell residents who'd like to speak on this item?
Mayor, there are 3 speakers. The first is Jane Melton.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. I'm the president of the board of directors for the Orchards of Roswell. When we first heard that there was going to possibly be a fire station on that property, we were concerned. We approached Lee Hills, and she graciously came and talked to us about it and talked to us about the process for working through this. We are an unofficial 55 community that backs up to that property, as you know, and we have concerns about this part of the property that I understand is possibly being sold to another developer that would be adjacent to the proposed fire station. Is that correct?
The item tonight is just about the transfer of the property to the Roswell Development Authority.
Okay. And it's my understanding that they will speak with anyone who's interested in purchasing the property.
The Roswell Development Authority will act as an economic arm of the city and can have negotiations on the property. Yes, ma'am.
We are asking that you keep us in the discussion loop. We have concerns, and we've been in email communication with the council members and you also about our major concerns, which are security, privacy, lighting, and the sound. So as this process goes forward, we would appreciate being included and kept abreast of what's happening.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Nancy. Sorry.
The next speaker is James Johnson.
Welcome, James.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you for a few minutes tonight. I'm also a resident of the Orchards of Roswell and a member of the board. And we are really interested in what it is that goes into that property adjacent to us. And I just want to highlight a couple of things for you. That property shares a L-shaped boundary with us. There are 16 residents whose front doors open onto that boundary. And some of that boundary is very short, 25, 30 feet. That and the beginning of the property that you intend or that will be developed. It will have a tremendous impact on the livability of our community, and we are concerned about that, and we would like to know for certain, and that that those concerns will be taken into account as you look to develop it. As Jane said, Councilwoman Hills came to us and talked with us at a community meeting and described the process and what was going on, and we really appreciate that. We've had other contacts with Mr. Leatherman, who actually responded and made us aware of tonight's meeting, and we really do appreciate that also. So I guess what Jane said is the same thing that I would. We are concerned about the security. We are currently having trouble with homeless people who are coming at night and staying in that boundary area. They are kind enough not to leave trash in the boundary area, but to put it in bags and put the bags on our front steps so that we can handle it properly. So it is becoming, we've also had some damage. The gate to the pool area was damaged, and I suspect it was one of those folks, although we don't know. And so we have real basis for concerns about what goes into that piece of property. I'd also like to comment that the police department have been very responsive when we have talked to them about the issues that we have had. So as Jane said, we want to be involved in every step, and we would be happy to be in touch with you. And hopefully tonight is the first time, and you can have some faces to put with our involvement with the city. We appreciate the engagement so far. And then finally, I would invite any one of you to come on over and take a look at the property itself to get kind of a visual, a firsthand knowledge of what it is going to be as you think about what you approve for putting into that piece of land. So thank you. You're welcome to come over anytime. I would be happy to give you my phone number. Several of you already have it, I think. And please, again, please listen to our concerns and consider them as you move ahead in the development. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, sir. Nancy.
Yes, the final speaker is Cindy Rogers.
Welcome, Cindy.
In the orchards, I don't know if this is an appropriate time to ask this question. I understand there was a noise study done about the proposed fire station on that property, and I wonder if you could share that with our community.
Let me ask the question, did we do a noise study on that property?
I'm not aware of one.
I'm not aware of one. It doesn't mean one wasn't done. Jeff, does it sound familiar? Pavel, Chief Troach?
Through my son, who is friends with Chief Troach.
Ah, there you go. Trouble. Speak of the devil. He's always up to something.
Yes, Mayor, great question. First of all, let me qualify it by saying that it was a non-scientific study. We just wanted some preliminary research to see as we move forward, especially after all the research was done for station moves, what impact fire apparatus and stations had when we looked at proposed areas to go into. Very important to qualify, it's non-scientific because the device we use, an SLM, which the police uses for noise, was not calibrated, but it gave us kind of a good objective overview. I don't have the information here, but basically what we found in all the locations that we did, that the ambient noise that was created by major roads like Highway 92 or Alpharetta Highway really diminished the impact of the sounds that the apparatus were producing. And what we did is we went to the front pad and we took a measurement of a truck running as well as activating the sirens and exiting. So the research was done in an effort for us to have a better understanding of what true impacts our noise was adding environmentally and how far. So at 100 feet, we found that that noise in places like Highway 92 or Alpharetta Highway were minimal at best. At 100 feet, they were already being diminished because of the ambient noises that were present. So again, that was done just as a preliminary research to couple some of the things that we've done in the city to look at potential station locations, as well as insight for the fire department if the question ever arises, what is the impact of noise for a fire truck? So marginal at best at 100 feet from a fire station. Did that answer the question? So we did 50 feet, we did 100 feet, but again, remember this is non-scientific research, and what we were trying to find is potential impact. At 100 feet, it was marginal at best. At 50 feet, it was just above ambient noise. And again, you got to take into account that the measurement is sitting outside. It's not taking walls, drywall, and insulation into account. So what we found, and I couldn't find any other study to conclude it, which is, well, Roswell led the way and did it themselves.
No, thank you. And thanks for letting us know something we didn't know. That was good. Nancy, any other residents?
You have one other speaker, Courtney Rozier.
Welcome back, Courtney.
I remembered that back in December, there was a resolution for the Bowen property. And so I had gone back and I looked at the resolution there, and there was a limitation for the property development. The resolution included that the development would be youth sports, performance training, outdoor recreation, and restaurant with no drive-through to be defined in a sale and purchase agreement. And when I looked at the resolution that was going to be discussed and voted on this evening, I didn't see the same types of limitations. And so I was just wondering if, so I guess my question is, there were a reason for those limitations that were in the December version not to be in this version?
Well, tonight is just about the transfer of the property to the RDA.
But it's the resolution, right? It would be the same type of resolution, or it's an actual trick, so.
I think it says approval of a resolution authorizing the Roswell Development Authority to enter into negotiations on a city-owned property located at Bowen Road and Highway 92.
But could you not put in those same limitations that were in the December resolution? Because the December resolution went through March, that they had the authority to do negotiations. But I guess this one is open-ended?
I think it's just approval of resolution authorizing the Roswell Development Authority to enter negotiations on a city-owned property located at Bowen Road and Highway 92.
So that means that there's already, I guess, a buyer?
Again, it's just the approval of a resolution authorizing the RDA to enter into negotiations on a city-owned property at Bowen and 92.
So there's not a reason for those limitations not to be included?
This
As those because
is a
they
pretty
couldn't-
simple resolution, just authorizing the RDA to enter into negotiations on a city-owned property.
But when I read the one in December, I think it was the same. It was authorizing them through March to negotiate. And in those negotiations, there were the limitations for those different types of development.
This is pretty simple. It's just an authorization of a resolution for the RDA to enter negotiations.
Okay. But wasn't the one in December same? An authorization to enter into negotiations, but it had the limitations?
Courtney, I think the one that's in front of us today, in front of you, in front of us today that's pretty simple, just a pretty simple resolution. It's just saying, hey, does us authorize the RDA to enter negotiations on city-owned property at Bowen and 92?
So why were there limitations in December and not now?
Again, this is just relevant to tonight's resolution, pretty simple. Hey, authorizing the RDA to enter negotiations.
So can I ask the council to, I guess then it would ask the council to consider adding those same limitations from December?
Certainly, you sure could ask the council to do that. Of course you can, 100%.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Nancy, any other Roswell residents?
There are no other speakers.
I think this gentleman would like to speak. Yes, sir. Maybe. If you'll do the card so that Nancy can introduce you, sir. Yes, sir. Just let Nancy introduce you. Alan, go ahead. Joe, you want to comment on the previous question?
Yes, and I'll just preface this with there is a certain limit as to what can be said on real estate negotiations that are ongoing. That can't be disclosed publicly, so it's not not avoiding questions. It's just there are certain things that have to be kept behind closed doors until such time as they are public, and that is how real estate negotiations are handled, and that's we're abiding by all the regulations surrounding that. So any real estate negotiations have to stay private until such time as the real estate transaction is made public.
Yes, sir. Nancy, would you call this gentleman up?
Yes, we have Barney Epstein.
Welcome, Barney.
Just a little clarification. Once it goes to this, you authorize it to go to a negotiation for development. Does it come back to you guys for approval?
100%.
Okay, that's simple.
100%.
All right, that's all I want to know, because
Yes, sir.
a lot of apprehension is about what's going to be there. Is it going to be a vape shop? Is it going to be a whatever?
No,
And
well,
as a
let me
resident,
just categorically say,
we
it will
just
not
want
be
to
a vape
know
shop.
when's the next meeting?
Yeah.
And also, is there any clarification of what has been negotiated so far?
So, as Joe just said, there's a real estate transaction taking place. So the city has a Roswell Development Authority who can enter into the negotiation in good faith and negotiate all the details. We're not in a position to put out those details because this is the agency, the RDA will be the agency that will actually negotiate with a developer or somebody who wants to buy it. And those details, they'll negotiate those details. So anything we would say would be not only ill-advised, to be premature, and could be wrong.
Excuse my ignorance, but who's the representative for our little subdivision there?
All of us.
Okay, see, that's my ignorance. But anyway, let you know we got about, how many units in our system? 120, so about 250 people. So, we're eagerly waiting the decision and see what's going to come. Hey, I like development. I want future and growth and stuff like that. It helps the bottom line and revenue. So let's see what happens, and I can support it if it's something that the residents would like.
Thank you, Barney.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Nancy, I'm going to ask, because there may be some other Roswell residents want to address it. Any other Roswell residents want to address this? Thank you very much. Bring it back to council. Council, any thoughts, comments, or questions?
Just one quick.
Yes, sir. Councilor Sells.
I mean, part of this is that we are approaching these conversations in a different way than they have been done before. And that is that historically, especially, well, I'll just say it this way. Historically, the developer found out that a piece of property was for sale. They approached the owner of the property, and that conversation was had before, and then they came to the ComDev window and said, here's what we'd like to do. We're taking a much more active role. In this particular piece of property, we own the property, so we are first person to that. So this is a little different than being surprised by a vape shop or a tattoo parlor or things like that. So it's really much more intentional. We're trying to make sure that the value of the property economically as well as quality of life is our first consideration, not we are chasing the ball down the hill after it shows up and they've already struck their deal. So that's part of the reason that this is different than what we've done in the past.
Thank you, Councilmember Sells. Councilmember Beeson.
And to clarify too, I believe the gentleman stepped out. So in terms of which one of us represents the area, and we answered all of us. So we all serve at large across the entire city. But as it relates to this parcel itself, currently you have at least 2 sitting council members who live in a neighborhood that's adjacent to that area. So I would say that they have skin in the game. Personally, my childhood home and my parents still live there, lives within walking distance of this parcel. So I wouldn't say that they're, Mayor Wilson also lives, if you're really dedicated, you could walk it, to walking distance to the parcel, but same neighborhood that my parents live in as well. But just to reiterate to the group as well, I think I understand the concerns of it seems like it's very arm's length. We don't understand what's happening. It will still come back to mayor and council. It will still be within a public forum. You will still have a time to weigh in. And there are multiple elected officials who do have quote unquote skin in the game within your area.
Thank you, sir.
We just can't get ahead of the negotiation at this point. That's really what this is about.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Will? Yes, sir. Councilmember Workman.
Point of clarification on this, and I'm looking at the resolution. We have 4.5 in the resolution, and would like to put forward that be increased to $5 million, not
Should
the
be amended to $5
4.5.
million.
Should be amended to 5.
Clerical issue. So
Clerical, yes, sir.
clerical mistake. Should be $5 million. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
So
Councilmember
when this comes forward, I'll add that to the
You're
motion.
probably going to get to read it anyway since you brought that up.
Okay.
Joe, would you make a note of that the resolution needs to state, I guess, 5 million, and anywhere placed that 4.5 million is in there, it should be 5 million. Very good. Thank you, Will. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions from council? Would anybody like to make a motion? Councilmember Worthland, thank you, sir.
Motion to approve a resolution authorizing the Roswell Development Authority, the RDA, to enter into negotiations on a city-owned property located at Bowen Road and Highway 92 for a sales price of no less than $5 million.
Thank you, Councilmember Worthland. Do I have a second to Councilmember Worthland? Seconded by Councilmember David Johnson. All in favor of approval of this resolution, please do so by raising your hands. Let the record show that the vote is 6-0 and unanimous. Thank you very much. Last item, I think, for this evening on the city attorney report. Yeah, Joe, would you read the last item, please, sir?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I do not have a recommendation for closure tonight.
Thank you very much, Joe. All right, being that there are no other items, this mayor and city council meeting of Monday, September 22nd, 2025 is adjourned. Thank you for being with us.